Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to Heart to Heart. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Having a good weekend. So, how about yourself?
Good, yes. Very good weekend, which is now I'm finishing up my weekend with you since I'm going to bed right after going to. I am not the night owl like most streamer. I'm more of a morning person.
Yeah, I was like basically nocturnal for a large portion of my life, and then I got trained by my dogs. So
Ah,
I become more of a morning person myself.
okay, good. Yeah, my cat wakes me up in the morning. So yes. But so I do understand that animals are training us to
Yeah,
be
we think it's the other way around, but no, it is in fact the animals who train us.
yeah, that's good. Okay, so it's really funny because I watched another interview you did like a year ago, right before doing this today, just to see the things you said and just to see like it's funny how different like your hair is from a year ago now.
I don't know if it's that different from a year ago. It's definitely very different from 3 years ago, which was the last time I got a haircut. But
But it was still long, but less long than this right now.
yeah,
3 years. You didn't get a haircut for 3 years.
so the last time I got a haircut was I just randomly know it like March 10th, 2020, because I got a haircut and then it was like everything went into lockdown. And then for a long time, I was just like, well, I can't get a haircut. It's not safe to go out and get a haircut with the pandemic and everything. And then I was like, you know what? I like my hair like this. And then I just kind of have just let it grow. And I haven't really felt like I had any desire to get it cut. So,
So you're now an adult.
I mean, I was definitely already an adult. Now I'm just, like a spitting image of a witcher or whatever.
Yeah, I was looking at social media, and a lot of people were saying you were like a kid, and then you turned to be an adult. Like it was like literally a transition from one day to another.
It is funny because I have like pictures from like like early 2020, late 2020 that literally look like someone who went through the apocalypse, right? It's the before and after photos from like seasons of The Walking Dead, because it's like there I am. Because the pictures in particular were from when I was casting the Magic World Championship in Hawaii. So there I am, like clean shaven, short hair, smiling on the beach. Then it's like grizzled, bearded, long, scraggly hair. It's like, okay, well, what happened? It turns out it was the end of the world. So.
Yeah, definitely. But it was the end of the world. But at the same time, I think for a lot of the streamer, and not for you because you were already established, it was the start of something new. The pandemic was actually a really good thing for Twitch and streamer like myself. Never streamed before and decided to take a leap of faith during the pandemic because we had the time and not commuting to work every day like we used to. So. So it was the start of something new. That's how I like to call the pandemic. So,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, go for it.
I know I was just gonna say, like, I think there's certainly some effects for both, people who were inspired to stream because, like you said, they now had the time because they weren't commuting, or maybe they weren't able to work at all because of the nature of what they did for a living. For me, it was like, okay, initially I was just streaming a ton because it was like, well, I don't have anything else to do, and people are stuck at home. That is how I started doing my gym streams. I happen to have the incredibly fortunate timing of getting all of my gym equipment in early March 2020. And I was like, well, I was already going to work out from home, so I might as well stream this because, I can't go anywhere. And, I did end up missing a lot, like stuff like I was talking about doing the casting and live shows and things like that. But, certainly transitioned into kind of doing other sorts of stuff instead.
Yeah, no. I mean, it was such a good idea. I remember seeing the fitness stream that you did for the first time, and I was like, wow, that's such a good idea. And then I was like, maybe I should do it. And then everyone's like, oh, you're a girl, you can't. You're a girl.
I mean, There's a different vibe for sure. I do my gym streams now with my girlfriend Olivia. We just did the most recent one this morning. So, uh, but yeah, it's I feel very fortunate that I'm able to have both the equipment and the space to be able to do something like that. Because for people who live like in apartments or anything like that, it's obviously not really realistic to have that scale of gym set up at your place.
For sure. And that must have been like great for you to have that space to train, and so not to like be get crazy at just like sitting down for so long. I think it was a a period for you to like really get in shape.
Yeah, I mean there was some push and pull during the early pandemic days of I'm just gonna spend all this time working out, get super ripped, and I don't have anything to do. I'm just gonna sit here and drink. So there's kind of the angel on the shoulder, devil on this shoulder kind of thing. And fortunately, I didn't do too much of the devil stuff, but you know I certainly could have been better.
Yeah, no. I mean, for everyone, I think the beginning of the pandemic was like, let's try all these different wines, and we're gonna die anyways. So like, why not eat
I mean,
carbs?
I do think there was kind of a like, well, I'm just gonna, like have myself a living room party every weekend because I can't go anywhere else. And it's like, okay, this is gonna last a lot longer than I thought. I can't keep doing this, or I'm just gonna get like liver disease.
Good point. Good point. Um, and so for you, so many things happened like during the pandemic and from the start to now. I mean, you had like dramatic things that happened to you, like the loss of Shiro. That was like to add to all of this intense 2 years. That must have been very difficult for you.
I mean, it really was. Like in particular, like Shiro was kind of my only like companion through a lot of that. Because my ex-wife and I, we had split up shortly before COVID, and Shiro was mostly staying with me. So like sort of like, okay, well, at least I have like the routine of taking care of him to sort of keep me in sort of a mind space that is like not just, oh well, it's just me and the internet, right? And it was really rough having to say goodbye to him earlier this year. Um, and fortunately, we do have a couple of new pups who we have welcomed into our lives who are amazing, Elspeth and Oko. So I there was like a period where I was like, okay, I didn't feel like I could welcome a new dog into my life because it was like I wasn't ready. But I'm very happy that I ended up sort of making the leap when I did, because dogs are great and they're like the best thing humans have done. So
Yeah, they'll definitely. And I mean, it's we see on your stream obviously how like you're paying a tribute to him with his pictures next to your cam. Like clearly he had like a big part to play in your life, especially with the pandemic as you mentioned. And so to have these new pups into your life. So how was the transition? I mean, can you talk a little bit about your transition into those new kids in your life?
well, it's interesting because so they're both rescues. They were actually a bonded pair who came from a home where they were with an older woman who was developing dementia and could no longer take care of them. And I'd reached out to the rescue online, and they had difficulty getting them adopted together. And interestingly enough, I had been looking at like Pomeranians, because obviously Shira was a Pomeranian, and I have become quite fond of them. And Olivia, she had a bonded pair of dachshunds, who had gone with her ex when they split up, and he moved away. So she was like, okay, I kind of want to get a bonded pair of dogs, because she was really fond of that kind of environment for them and for her. And we found this bonded pair of a Pomeranian and this Maltipoo. And when we initially like met them at like a meetup, the individual who was doing the fostering asked us, oh, could we meet at maybe like a park in this area and named this area, which is literally where our like LARP fighter practice meets every Saturday. And he like just happened to be there, like nearby, dropping off another foster. And I'm like, okay, well, if this isn't like serendipity, I don't know what is.
It was like a sign. If you're waiting
Yeah.
for a sign, there it is. Well, I must say, like you're talking about Olivia, your girlfriend, like you guys look like a match made in heaven. I mean, literally, we would like see both of you like physically, and we're like, you need to go together.
Well, so one of the really funny things is that years ago, I guess one of her friends had like kind of, been thinking that she wanted to get the two of us together. And this was before Olivia and I had even met, that she was just like, basically shipping the two of us. And late only found out after we had like kind of, met and gotten together that this was the case. And it was like, she's basically just a prophet, right? Like that she had decided that the two of us would be perfect for each other before we had, even really been aware of each other. So it's kind of wild how the world works like that sometimes.
Yeah. And so how was so that's the friend that make you meet or not at all after that?
Oh, she wasn't even involved in us
Okay.
meeting. So I tweeted this thing over the holidays that was how it started, how it's going, which was our first interaction was her replying to a tweet of mine that she didn't even like follow me on Twitter or anything. It was like her friend did, and her friend who she lived with pointed this tweet out, which was just I had cooked seared ahi. And she replied to this tweet. She was like, I don't know, we've never met, you don't know me, but I'm coming over. And this was still months before we'd ever met. And then the how it's going was that I had just made seared ahi for her like a few weeks ago or whatever. And it is also funny because I hadn't been able to go to the farmer's market, or hadn't gone to the farmer's market where I had gotten that particular ahi, because it's in Santa Monica where I used to live. And it's only available in the Wednesday morning farmer's market, which is the bigger one because they supply a bunch of restaurants and things. So I finally was able to make it out over the holiday break now, and I was like, oh, it looks like this all worked out.
So yeah, I mean, I saw the post and I was like, I didn't know you were a chef.
Not exactly, but I mean, that was one of the positive things for me that did come out of the pandemic was, I'm certainly not just going to order delivery for every meal. I can't go out, to eat anywhere. So I started cooking for myself, and I started, getting better at it, and trying new things, and nowadays I kind of gotten, or at least had gotten back into the habit of doing too much delivery. But in particular, Olivia and I are like, okay, we want now after it's a typical New Year's resolution, right? It's like, oh, we're gonna eat better, we're gonna take better care of ourselves.
Everyone.
Exactly, it's very 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 stereotypical. But and I used to actually be very critical of that kind of New Year's resolution, and just New Year's resolutions in general, right? Because it's like, if you're gonna change something in your life, change it as soon as you want to. Don't wait for some arbitrary date to do it. But at the same time, the nature of the holidays can often make that difficult, right? If you're, having these sort of tradition, ritual meals, going out with friends, whatever sort of celebrations, it is difficult to give up on those, or to, not participate in those, and still like stick to those sort of goals. So I think it kind of naturally becomes after the sort of winter holidays, and I really start that with like Halloween, right? It's like the Halloween candy through the Thanksgiving food and leftovers, through Christmas and all the New Year's drinks and eggnog or whatever. That all is pretty challenging to make positive nutritional changes in your life, right? So I think it kind of is a natural restart once you get to the new year, even if it is like not necessarily the only time you can make those sort of changes in your life.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think you have a good point. It's like 3 holidays, one after the other, that are really like food oriented. And then like you want to be there for your family, and like meals, food, drinks brings people together. So you absolutely don't want to miss on that. So it makes sense that like now we have a period where like less holidays, like Valentine's Day is not that much focus on food except for chocolate. But so it's a good time to start making those. And Tyler, the Battleground streamer, was writing. He got into the gym recently, like the his new routine, and he was so mad that a lot of people are taking New Year's resolution, and he's like, the gym is packed. It's horrible because it's January and everyone wants to get back in shape.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely. On the one hand, like a lot of people will criticize, oh, all these people, New Year's resolutioners in the gym, yada yada. But at the same time, it's like good for them, right? At least they're trying, you know. And it is definitely the worst time to try to get into the gym and get yourself in better shape because it is so crowded and so difficult to be able to have access to any of the equipment you might want. Which is, again, one of the big reasons that I feel very fortunate that I managed to get the home gym equipment that I did when I did. So it's not something that I have to worry about, at least. But I think that, yeah, you do have lots of people making the same kind of life choices around the same time. And I think it's, no coincidence with, like we were saying, those sort of holidays back to back to back. And typically speaking, it's tough for a lot of people to stick to it, right? Like, you do see the fall off once you get into even later in January or, into February. A lot of those people aren't going to be back. And, that's kind of a shame, right? Because, you'd hope that people who do decide that they want to make these positive life choices manage to stick to it. And that's a big part of why, I wanted to do the gym streams in the first place, was to hopefully provide that kind of motivation and inspiration to people who may have fallen off track and, need a little bit of a push to get back to it.
Yeah, and I thought it was very motivational when I saw you do it, and I wanted to do it for myself just to like have a schedule and like a stream. I'm always there for my stream, so I should always be there for like my gym. But again, the sex thing, like people, like it's a very different crowd if I put some leggings and a tank top.
Definitely,
and I start
definitely.
making burpees.
You're going to have a different audience, that's for sure. And I mean, I find myself having to fairly militantly police my chat when I'm working out with Olivia, right? There'll be people coming in and I'm like, nope, this isn't welcome here, But yeah, it's obviously very different sort of stuff that you all need to deal with.
Yeah. But I wish I could, though. Maybe I'm just gonna do it and say like, it doesn't matter.
If you do just like have some mods who are getting the job done, and one of the things that in addition to being potentially inspirational and motivational for viewers, I do find that having the gym stream schedule is the sort of thing where it's like, well, I am on schedule. I got to work out these days, and if I don't, people will know that I didn't, right? Because I didn't stream. So there's definitely a self-motivational factor there as well, because it does become part of this routine that people expect.
Exactly. It's like it's good for you. It's good, like it gives you like a little push, like another reason to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good. Okay, so you mentioned takeout. So what's your go-to in takeout recently?
So there is the recently when we're trying to be a little bit more health conscious, which is poke. Poke is delicious and also pretty reasonable in terms of nutrition. Probably our guilty pleasure that we've ordered way too many times in the past 6 months, year or whatever, is katsu curry. I do love me some good Japanese curry.
Okay, so katsu curry and poke and tuna or salmon?
All of the above. I usually get like a big poke thing with a bunch of different fish and various toppings and things. I love the seaweed salad and the spicy tuna, regular tuna, salmon, all sorts of goodness.
Okay, good. Is there things you don't like in food?
Oh, I hate lettuce and cabbage and cucumber. Like which a lot of people are baffled by that, right? They're like, how can you not like lettuce? It doesn't have any taste. It's like, well, it has a texture I don't like. And cucumber definitely has a taste, right? Cucumber definitely has a taste that, and ironically, I love pickles. Pickles are great because they don't have the cucumber taste. And part of it too is like, it goes into things that like I don't want that texture in. Like I pick cucumber out of like all of my sushi, for instance. And it's not just, as people in the chat are saying, green vegetables being evil. I love broccoli. I like spinach. I'll eat like arugula, so it's not even just leafy green things. I love Brussels sprouts, right? It's just specifically the like texture and flavor of those things.
Okay. So lettuce, cucumber, and cabbage.
Yeah. There's
So
like an ongoing, joke in my like stream where, like people will suggest things for me to get and they're just like, "Oh, you should get like lettuce this, lettuce that." And, Olivia's like, "Yeah, if it's a sort of like if you had to ask someone a question like, that would prove that they're being held hostage or whatever, it would be if I asked for lettuce on something because I hate it that much."
it's a cold word. I'm
Yeah,
in danger.
yeah. Seriously, I'm like, "Yeah, I want this with extra lettuce." It's like, "Oh God, you're in trouble."
Okay, good. Noted. Duly noted. If you message me one day, lettuce, I will be okay.
Yeah,
It's a bad.
I'm like the anti-crip, right? Like he's vegan and like eats all these various leaves,
Ooh.
and I absolutely not.
No, but in the heart to heart I had with Crip, we had a full on big discussion about food, and he's vegan, but he eats like beans, chips, burritos, hamburgers. It's not that lettuce. It's a vegan, but like a dirty vegan.
Well, I have friends who are just like, "Oh yeah, like like being like vegan or vegetarian specifically we're talking about, is like so much healthier." And I had a friend who was vegetarian who like literally would just eat like basically mac and cheese all the time. I'm like, this is not a healthy diet. Like you can be vegetarian and eat like absolute trash.
Yeah, no, that's true. I had an intern once that was vegan and she would just eat pasta like all day, every day. I'm like, well, obviously she was not in a good health form. And I was like, you need to incorporate other things than pasta in your diet.
The whole
Vegan, okay.
vegetarian thing kind of refers to vegetables. Maybe you should consider some of.
Yeah. Especially like when you're vegan, you cannot even put cheese. So like pasta with
There
tomato
there are
sauce.
plant-based cheeses. We were actually just at the grocery store and we're like looking at. There's some plant-based cheese thing that was like made of like potatoes and vegetable oil or something, which does not sound terribly appealing to me. But
No, it doesn't. So you like cheese?
ew, I love cheese.
Okay, top
There's
three.
actually like a cheesemonger near our place that we host like regular like magic nights with a bunch of our friends at our place, and one of the highlights is always that we go and get like charcuterie boards and a bunch of like cheeses and accoutrements and crackers and bread and stuff. And there's a place near us that's just really 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 good. We're regulars there. They're always impressed at how much we get every time we come in because we're getting stuff for a bunch of people.
So top three cheeses.
See, it's like types of cheese because there's so many different
Yeah.
it's not just like, oh, I like cheddar Gouda, right? There's so many individual
Yes.
types. Probably my favorite cheese that I've had is a cheese called Brabender Reserve that used to be called Black Betty. So you can tell that I'm someone who like goes to cheesemongers, right? Because I'm specifically talking about like this exact cheese. I'm not a huge like soft cheese fan, like Brie and whatnot. But there's like this soft cheese that we get at that place pretty frequently called Shabishu, which is excellent. There's another like Holy Cow is exactly what it sounds like, but I forget exactly what type of cheese that is. But it's also pretty excellent.
Do you get mostly American cheeses or?
They're kind of from all over. I forget where
Okay.
Brabender is specifically from, but the Shabishu is French, as it sounds. um, there are some like there's a place called Meredith Dairy that makes this really good like sheep and goat like
Ooh.
marinated cheese that we just call jar cheese, which is super good. Highly recommend that. That you can actually get at least a version of that at Costco even. So probably available pretty widely.
Nice. Yeah, I do understand that. I have a restaurant rate at my local cheese shop they gave me 15% off because of the amount of cheese that I buy. It's restaurant quantities. I eat cheese every meal, so yes.
Oh, okay.
I've visited places that I like the cheese from in France. I'm a cheese enthusiast, as you can say.
I'm like on their cheese newsletter, right? Like
That's good. That's good. That's really good. So I do
first one
understand you.
Friday.
So yes, for me, cheese is very important. I ask if you like cheese on every interview. This is the 40 seconds, the 42 interview that I made, that I asked, do you like cheese, and top 3 cheese. And like when you say you don't like cheese, it's like a moment where chat just
Sorry, we've got
riots.
to end this now. This is over. Yeah, exactly. We transitioned from talking about like diet and health to buying cheese in bulk. Cheese is like on the list with like pasta of things that like if it weren't for the fact that eating a like metric ton of it would be terrible for my health, I absolutely would. I have like a saved meme on my phone. Here, I'll show it to the camera. That's just it's in my memes folder. It's just this. Oh, I don't know if I can turn it aside. Yeah, there it is. Just that's my secret. I'm always hungry. Just the Hulk from. I'm trying to make sure it's appropriately
Yeah.
cropped. Yeah, there you go. It's just the Hulk from Avengers, because do I love food?
I agree, 100%. So, do you pair your cheese with wine?
I am not a wine drinker that often. Mostly it's paired with like crackers, bread, various cured meats, and like there's this cherry chai like jam spread that we
Ooh,
also get at that same cheesemonger that is fantastic.
ooh,
Uh,
that
there's
sounds
a yeah there's
delicious.
yeah oh it's there's a blueberry sumac one they have as well, which is
Ooh.
super good. Honey is an excellent pairing with all of these things too. So we have a whole like range of various, like almonds. We have these truffle Marcona almonds, which are delicious. So all the good stuff.
So, you mentioned a lot during your magic nights, you do cheese board. So, if someone that plays magic doesn't like cheese, what do you do?
I mean, they just don't have to eat it. We have other stuff too.
Okay, so they're accepted.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, we'll typically have like the big cheese board thing and provide some drinks and stuff, and lots of people bring over their own snacks and drinks and things like that. Usually, someone will order pizza, though that will also have cheese on it. So
Yeah, I mean, if you don't like cheese, life is difficult.
it is, and I don't know what is wrong with you.
I agree. I agree. Okay. So you knew in the interview there's a big part about food, right? You knew it's usually
I didn't know what I was getting myself into actually, but I am happy to talk about food.
literally it's every streamer said it's the scariest part of the interview, the food part.
Food's great. I love food.
Okay, so you mentioned you liked vegetable, but do you like fruits?
I do. I don't like regularly eat a bunch of fruit or anything, but I do like fruits.
Top three
I would say
fruits?
probably like raspberry, probably mostly berries, like raspberry, blackberry, blueberry, or like raspberry, blackberry, and like strawberry or banana or apple. It's like those are kind of all raspberry, blackberry are the top two though for sure.
Okay. So that leads me to what's a food life in the life of Kibler? So by the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, like a typical Kibler day.
So I actually make myself the exact same breakfast sandwich every morning, and it's incredibly good. So it's 2 eggs, ham, pepper jack cheese, all like like grilled up on toasted sourdough bread, which is homemade sourdough bread nowadays because Olivia makes a delicious, delicious sourdough bread.
Wow. She
And
she
that,
is
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, no. So also very funny. And this actually like carries over to a conversation I had like New Year's Day, a little over a year. I think it was a year ago. I had found, this was before Olivia moved in. I had been looking for a place to get good bread around here because I had just moved to the place that I live now from Santa Monica at the end of 2021. And when I was in Santa Monica, there was the farmer's market. There was a place that sold sourdough there that was good. There's a place called Justa, which is in Venice, that has really, really good bread that I would order from sometimes as well. But after I moved out here, I was like, I was just using like store-bought bread, which is nowhere near as good as fresh baked bread, as I'm sure everyone knows. And I had found this place on like DoorDash, whatever, that was just a place that sold just sourdough bread. And I ordered some, via delivery, and it was very good. So I ordered some again, and then I ordered again. And I like tweeted about it and posted it on Facebook. And they apparently got just like so many orders from it. Because I was just like, oh, this bread is incredible. They send you these cards that tell you like, these instructions for like how and when to like eat the bread for various, various textures and flavors and whatever. And they got a bunch of orders, not only from like people in, around LA, but from like all over the country. And the guy who ran it found my Facebook post. He's like, I've been looking for the mysterious Brian K. Been ordering this bread and got us all these orders from everywhere. So I eventually did just go into the store because it's not that far away from where I live, but it was just like, I was just ordering delivery because, whatever. It's like this little shop that's run by this older couple. The guy works in like music production, and they had previously just made bread for like friends, and it was so good that I guess their friends were like, oh, can I get more of this? I want to buy this, and they eventually just like decided to go into business selling bread. And literally on New Year's Day this year, I was like at a friend's place and I was talking to a bunch of people, and one of the people was like, this is a really random question, but are you the Brian who found that bread place? And I'm like, what? Yes, but how in the world did you make this connection? Because, she was like, oh, I heard about it from someone at Riot who'd heard about it from someone at Blizzard or whatever. And it like kind of had permeated into the entire LA area gaming industry from my like posts about it a year ago. So kind of wild.
That is wild. Really? I mean, did he give you anything? Like a free bread? At least for all that?
He gave me some free stuff when I went in, and
that's nice.
I do feel like I haven't gone back in a really long time though, because Olivia has been making bread and her bread is excellent. I totally got off the rails with my description of my breakfast sandwich.
But it was an interesting story though.
Yeah. I will continue, though, for those who want to know about my breakfast sandwich that is so good that I eat every day. But yes, it is 2 eggs, ham, and you need to get good ham. It can't be like, just because anything is really a lot about the quality of the ingredients. Any food is about the quality of the ingredients in a lot of cases. So, I try and get like the like specific like sliced ham from the deli of the grocery store. There's like different types that aren't quite as good because sometimes they're out of that ham. And then all of that's grilled up, toasted sourdough with avocado, and it has to be salted avocado. It helps bring out the flavors.
100%.
And then this truffle hot sauce.
Ooh.
And it is delicious.
What's the brand of the truffle hot sauce?
It's called Truff is the name of the brand for the truffle hot sauce.
Okay, they sell it at the market. Okay, good.
Yeah,
I haven't tried it.
Yeah, I actually also got a bunch of people to buy that when I first got that, and like tweeted about it at one point. A bunch of people I had someone come up to me at a Magic event and have me sign their hot sauce box because they're like, I love this stuff, and I first heard about it from you. See, they need to sponsor me. It's really lost opportunities, but here I am promoting it anyway.
Well, did you contact them?
I did actually email them, to be like, hey, I was just wondering if you wanted to do any kind of like, promotional stuff, and they never heard back. But whatever, I'm still happy to shout it out because it's delicious. So, although it does remind me that I haven't gotten my most recent order yet, so I need to follow up.
Okay.
But yeah, and when Olivia and I were talking about like, okay, we want to watch our nutrition and work out more and get in better shape at the beginning of this year, we were talking about like, okay, well, what are we gonna do? And I was like, my like immutable part of my like nutrition plan is that I am going to have my breakfast sandwich every morning. That is not changing. I'm going to build everything else around the breakfast sandwich.
I agree. That's a good plan. Though, I mean, it's crazy that you're not like tired of it at some
Oh
point,
no, it's
no?
just I love it. It's just it's so good. I didn't have it today because we went out for brunch, but basically every day that we're home, that's what I make for breakfast, and I love it.
What did you order at brunch?
Uh, we had this avocado burrata toast. It's like avocado burrata, tomatoes, balsamic, and it was delicious. It's at WeHo Diner in West Hollywood. It's very very good. And then we had like a cream of mushroom soup that was really good, and a chicken piccata. This is like we split all this. A chicken piccata that was pretty good, and then a penne bolognese which wasn't very good. So,
But everything else was good.
yeah, everything. I mean, I've been to that place before, and the best thing there, if anyone is in the LA area and wants to go to a WeHo Diner, the best thing there is the burrata avocado toast. It is incredibly good. I would also say that the cream of mushroom soup is worth like specifically getting when you go there too, because that was also excellent. But the toast is the best part.
Yeah, I mean, for me, burrata, it's for sure. If it's on the menu, I'm getting it.
Yeah, burrata is fantastic. We'll sometimes get this like this burrata from the cheesemonger that is excellent as well.
It's from Italy, I'm assuming.
I don't know. I'm not really entirely sure where the origin is, but
So I don't know if you know that, but did you know the difference between summer milk and cheese versus winter milk and cheese? Okay, so
no.
next time you go to the cheesemonger, ask to have a cheese that is from a summer milk.
But I know that certain cheeses are only available in certain seasons. Like for instance, the Brabender Reserve is only something that they have in the fall.
Yeah,
Uh,
that makes
you know,
sense.
yeah. So I don't know if that's specifically because summer versus winter milk in the cheeses or whatever.
So if you make cheese, for example, you want your production of cows or animals to be year round, but realistically during the summer they're outside living their best life, eating lots and lots of great things, so it's very floral in the summer, and in the winter they only eat in the barn like dry stuff, so the taste is super different. So when you order a cheese for Christmas, for example, and it's a month that is like if it's like a 36 month and it's in the winter, that means it's a winter milk, so it's not the best. You should get the one like the 18 months is probably better.
Dang. Huh. That is interesting. I mean,
So
not necessarily like better, right? It's just gonna have different characteristics.
yeah,
Right?
well, exactly. It's not better, but it's depending on what you like, and you can
Right.
compare them after now that you know it,
Yeah.
and
That's
see
interesting.
which one you prefer, because they have different palette, and you can it's like better with a pairing of something else. For example,
Yeah. Huh.
summer milk versus winter milk.
I went to a cheese tasting in Amsterdam. This was back in like 2013, I want to say. And they went through like all these various like explanations of how different cheeses are like made, and that was not something that was included. So I'm a little bit surprised that I hadn't heard that before.
Well, it's really in France that I learned about it. I did some cheese. I went to a cheese place where they explained it in Amsterdam too, but it's true they didn't mention it. I guess it's different in culture also.
Yeah, and I wonder how different that is in different environments, right? Like how much that impacts cheese made in France obviously has very different summers versus winters, but like a cheese made in say California, may
Exactly,
not have that same variation in effect.
exactly. But for French cheeses
Yeah.
or any places where you have like differences in temperature versus summer winter, you can see the difference. So yeah, no, good point. Okay, so you never mentioned coffee though. You don't drink coffee?
I drink coffee. I don't like coffee. I drink energy drinks. I do drink a lot of caffeine, but I drink energy drinks. So
Which kind?
a wide variety.
Okay.
um,
All of them.
there. Yeah, I mean, like I generally try to stick away from stay away from things that are like ridiculously caffeinated or like sugary. There's this thing. Liquid Focus is this energy drink from like More Labs, and I like their melatonin drink stuff too for helping me sleep at night. So I get a lot of their stuff these days.
Have you tried Guru? You
I've not.
should. You should.
I haven't heard of it. Guru?
Yeah. GURU. It's like
Yeah.
organic and it's like made with only natural stuff. It's really nice. You should try it. You should. I
I
like
will.
it. There's one is matcha, the other one is yerba mate. Like it's nice.
Man,
Okay.
check it out.
So you didn't mention coffee or tea. So you go with the breakfast sandwich and then you have lunch, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and I mean, my lunch and dinner tend to be a lot more variable. It also depends like whether I'm streaming or not. On like a weekend when I'm not streaming, it'll be pretty different than like when I am streaming. Usually, like these days, I had a sponsorship with Factor, and I have actually been eating a bunch of their meals since then. They're actually super super convenient. It's like 2-minute microwave meal thing. And like our fridge is just stocked with those right now, so that's been a lot of what I've been having for lunch and dinner these days. That and like all the leftover mashed potatoes from Christmas. Fortunately, I'm well past that point. 'Cause we had some friends over for Christmas, and I was in charge of mashed potatoes, and I like to eat a lot of mashed potatoes for the mashed potato holiday meals, which are Thanksgiving and Christmas. And also like to have leftovers. But I was the only one who had nearly the motivation to eat as many mashed potatoes as I was perhaps expecting others to. So there were 5 of us, and I think I made like 5 or 6 pounds of potatoes, maybe even more. Maybe it was like 7 or 8 pounds of potatoes. It was like
Okay.
these smaller things of potatoes that were like probably about like 4 pounds, and then like individual larger potatoes. So it might have been like 7 or 8 pounds of potatoes. And we just literally had like a Tupperware thing, like this big, just full of potatoes. And I got through about half of it before eventually tapping out like 4.5, 5 days later and being like, okay, these have like butter and milk in them, and they probably are going to go bad. And also, I don't just want to eat potatoes at every meal anymore.
That is a good point. Yeah, I'm glad
Also,
you.
want to come say hi. Hey, buddy.
Hey, come say hi.
This is Oko.
Oh, Oko, hi. Oh my
Ellie's in
god,
here too.
he looks so fluffy.
He is pretty fluffy.
Do you brush him?
He doesn't get brushed that often. Ellie loves getting brushed. Ellie, come here. She just got brushed a bunch, actually. You want to come up?
I mean, it's crazy when you think about it that it's been difficult for them to get adopted, and they're so nice.
That people didn't want to adopt both of them.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They were like, oh, we're going to get a dog, not 2 dogs. But they're both just adorable. Here they are.
They're
Oh,
so
go ahead.
nice. And it's very funny because like the shape of a guy you are loving Pomeranian. I remember the first I got into the Hearthstone community and streaming 2 years ago in 2 weeks. I've been playing for the longest time, since the beginning, but I didn't know there was a community or like people stream. For me, I was alone playing my game for the longest time in my bath every morning before going to work. And so I got into knowing some people in the community, and so I ended up going on some of the stream. Then I went on yours before the fitness one, and then I saw your dog, and I was like, it's funny because usually they say the dog and the master, they look like each other, when you own a dog. And I was like, that's an
I'm pretty
interesting
free these days, so.
that's an interesting choice. I mean, I would not have pictured you with a Pomeranian.
So it's funny because Shiro was my ex's dog. Like my ex had Shiro when when we met, and I've always really loved dogs, but I grew up with like a golden retriever, right? Like I had like a pretty big dog, and there was a point in my life when I was like, oh, I would only want a dog, that's like big enough to wrestle with, right? Otherwise, it's like it might as well be a cat, like it's or a rodent or whatever. But I, having lived with Shiro and basically just utterly falling in love with him, kind of changed my perspective. I really now really like small dogs, in part because they can just sit in your lap, climb on top of you, and they're not just gonna crush you, right? Like I actually have this video from last week at one point where Oko's just sitting in my lap as I'm streaming, and I'm using my like underdesk elliptical thing, and he's just like rocking back and forth, like totally happy, like as if he's on a rocking horse, doesn't mind it at all. It's like you're not gonna have that kind of opportunity, that kind of experience with a big dog. Not gonna happen. But I like big dogs too, but I have grown to really appreciate small dogs.
Yes. Oh my god, they're adorable. And how old are they?
The rescue said that they were somewhere between 2 and 4 when we got them, which was last August. So we basically say they're 3.
Okay, a middle.
Yeah.
So you're probably one of the let's continue into a little bit more about Hearthstone and streaming now. But so you've been literally like a pillar in the community. You've been there for like the longest time. You're one of the in French we would say les meubles, which is like you're part of the furniture. You've been there for so long.
They said it all the time. So that's what I said.
So I mean, from everything you saw through the years in the gaming, streaming, like for you, what is the biggest change that happened, and or like a big silver lining that happened into all of your time?
You mean like with respect to Hearthstone specifically, or just?
It can be Hearthstone. It can be a streaming, gaming. We can mix it all.
I mean, I would say that the biggest thing is just how big it's gotten, right? Like, I have been, and not just streaming, but gaming, period, right? Like, I have been involved in games professionally, essentially, since the early 2000s. I played Magic competitively. I played the Magic Pro Tour for years. Worked in game design, and then started streaming with Hearthstone in like 2014. I had streamed Magic prior to that, starting in like 2011, back when Twitch was very new, and it's just really blown up in so many ways. And gaming, when I started, attempting to be a professional gamer, you really couldn't do that in remotely the number of ways or at the level of success that is possible now, right? Like I remember when I was a kid and like I won $100 in a Magic tournament and I was absolutely ecstatic, right? Like I was just like, oh wow, this is something I can do, that like I don't have to have this terrible summer job doing concessions at the amusement park or whatever. And now like like that is not remotely the level of success that people even like almost assume that you can have doing like gaming and gaming content creation. There's like, there's like gamers on billboards in Times Square. There's gaming events that sell out stadiums, right? Like it has been absolutely transformational. Like I played D&D in like the mid 90s and it was like this sort of like taboo sort of thing that like people were like all at best skeptical and at worst like outright like despised. And now there's like D&D cartoons, like a cartoon based on a broadcast D&D campaign on like a major streaming service, right? Like the entire cultural landscape as it relates to gaming and kind of geek culture has massively transformed, particularly since I was a kid, but even in the past like 5 or 10 years, right? Like the rise of Twitch and YouTube, and nowadays things like TikTok, like have really created so many more opportunities for people to find people who they share interests with, and that has led to this enormous just category of entertainment and like business opportunities for people who would never have been able to find anything like this before.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like, and I will say you're like a grown up. You're like an adult, a real one. Because before 30, you're like a kid. Before 30.
Video games all day for a living. So.
It's good that I think like so people can look up to you and say like, okay, I mean you can really do this as a career, like a full on career. Not everyone makes it obviously, but that's like in every artistic area. Like if you're a singer or anything, same thing happens obviously. But do you have any, because so many people are looking up to you, like do you have tips for younger streamers that would like to follow your footsteps?
I literally just talked about this earlier today, in that it's so difficult for me to give advice to people because my experience was so different than anyone could possibly have trying to get into the space today. Because, like I said, I played games competitively for the past 25 years. I worked in game design for over 10 years. I was one of the most successful Magic players like in history. And when I started streaming, one of the head techs of Twitch remoted into my desktop to set it up for me because the people there were fans who wanted to watch me stream Magic. So, like, you're not going to have that experience, right? Like, realistically, it's difficult for me to say, this is what you should do to follow my path. Go back in time and do all these things, right? So I would say to someone who wants to become a streamer now, one of those important things is to, frankly, be realistic. Because streaming now is not the market that it was when I started, at this point, again, like over 10 years ago. It's very much like any other entertainment category, in that there's a ton of competition, and it's very, very difficult to be successful if you're legitimately trying to do it for a living. It's just like trying to be a professional athlete, trying to be a singer, trying to be an actor. And, maybe you could say, well, it's not like those things because those things have these specific skills that you need to be good at. Well, I think it's more nebulous in terms of what it is that makes a successful streamer than it is that makes a successful professional athlete. But it's still, there are millions of people who are trying to do it, and a very, very small percentage who end up actually being successful. So much of the success is the very visible individual people at the top, and you don't really see, the people who are streaming to like 5 viewers at most of the nights of the week, who are like grinding it out, and I just got to keep doing this, because there's kind of this grind culture mindset in a lot of things, I think, in like our culture these days, that like glamorize, just keep going at it. And you certainly can't succeed without trying, but like that's not enough most of the time, right? Like you need to have some way that you're standing out. If you look at people who are successful streamers, many of them either were among the first streamers, right? Like they're among the first people who were streaming, and thus have this like major first mover advantage, and like people just kind of happened upon them when it was still this like easy organic discovery thing because there wasn't all the competition. Or they're people who came from other platforms with major followings. Or they're people who were like supernaturally successful in a game, right? Like the absolute top players in a game who are also charismatic, right? Because like it's, you see a lot of top players in a lot of games who try streaming and just don't even get that many viewers, right? Because they may be one of the best, but they're just not that entertaining. So there's kind of like just so many individual factors that go into finding success as a streamer that are really difficult to try to replicate starting from nothing.
Yeah, definitely. it's a tough world, and everyone has their own experience. And you're right. I think most people say you should grind when I ask this question, but it's true
Well,
that there's so many
otherwise,
other
it's also
factors.
nowhere near enough, right? Like you can't just keep turning on the stream every day and just doing the same thing. It's not just going to make you grow, right? Like it is necessary but not sufficient, in terms of like a logical way to frame it, So and like in particular if like, you've just kept doing it for weeks or months or a year or whatever, and you haven't reached a level that you're happy with, there's a good chance you won't, right? There's a good chance that like like unless some like thing you manage to blow up somewhere else. Like I think one of the best ways right now, from my pretty rudimentary understanding of how a lot of these things work, because TikTok is not something that I'm super familiar with, but seems to be one of the best ways to discover people for basically anything now, because you can kind of like blow up through their algorithm and that will just drive a lot of eyeballs to you, right? So, streaming for like 8 hours a night or whatever might not get you remotely as much possibility for success as like streaming a couple hours and, posting some clever TikToks that actually direct people to your Twitch stream. Like I said, I don't know, because my experience is just so different, right?
Definitely. But at the same time, creating those takes time, and you need to understand well the platform to make it good. So you need to like be on it a little bit, understand what the trends, and I think that's it looks super sometimes easy, but it's definitely harder than it looks.
Oh, it is baffling to me. Like, TikTok, it was one of the first things that like made me really feel kind of old, right? Like, because I was just like, oh, there's just like millions and millions of viewers, and like just these things where people are like doing a little lip sync and a dance, and okay, I guess that's what the kids do these days. Like it really was that kind of like thought process, right? And I'm not trying to diminish it, right? I'm just trying to point out like how disconnected I am from that being like, oh, this is the form of entertainment I'm gonna seek out, right?
Definitely. Like, I mean, I'm a streamer, but I also have a full-time job, and I work in marketing. So we had lots of meetings with the company saying, okay, now we need to have discoverability on TikTok, because the new generation only use TikTok to discover things. They don't even use Google anymore. And I was like mind blown by that. I felt old, really, like in that same second.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's the sort of thing. It's like I've spent like all this time and effort, and like my Twitch channel, my YouTube channel, like my Twitter, whatever, and it's like no, none of those matter anymore. It's this. What you need to do is find the exact same audio that millions of other people are using and try and use it too, and hope that the algorithm points people your way, and then you win. It's like, what? I don't get it,
I agree. It's kind of funny how it works. Oh my god. Okay, so streaming is definitely something very difficult to do. Like playing video games, has it been always in your DNA? Have you been like playing video games since you're like a child?
I use this example of, I would say yes, but I specifically use the example of a original Nintendo game that I would play. It was called Baseball Stars, and Baseball Stars was it's one of the early, at least to my knowledge, like baseball games that kind of had like a season simulator. It wasn't just you play your team against another team and that was just it, right? That was a lot of the early games. But this like added the, okay, well you're managing a team. They were all like cartoon characters and stuff. There's no like actual branded like teams and players and whatnot. But I figured out that you got money for your for your team based on the popularity score of the two teams involved. And you even got more money if you lost, if the other team had a high popularity score. So I would take my team and play it against the lovely ladies team, which was the like computer team that had the highest popularity score. and I would walk all of their batters over and over until they mercy ruled you in the first inning to just get the money for having played and lost the game. And I would just do this repeatedly until I got like as much money as they needed to buy all the like, you know, promising rookie players and train them up as much as possible and just get a completely broken team. I was like 9. And this was like how my brain latched onto this game. So that's sort of where I started, and then got into stuff like D&D and Magic that had all these other kind of crunchy mechanics that I could do the same thing with in a much more meaningful way.
And talking about Magic, if you would pick Magic or Hearthstone, would you pick Magic?
So, Magic is my favorite game. I think Hearthstone is a much better game for streaming, because it is just much like easier to understand by just looking at like the board, right? Like Magic was never made to be a digital game. Magic was made to be a paper game, and was ported to be a digital game in sort of all of the versions that it has. And you know, Magic Arena, the newest version, is much better, like vastly better than any of its predecessors, but it's still not as like watchable as Hearthstone is. So, you know, I was actually streaming, you know, Magic originally, like I mentioned, but like it was just not a viewer friendly experience. It was not a user friendly experience, which is how I ultimately ended up streaming Hearthstone in the first place. So, you know, right now I'm glad I don't have to choose, because it would be very difficult. If you said you could only play one of these ever again for the rest of your life, you know, right now I'd probably have to choose Hearthstone just because that's the core of what I currently do for a living. But you know, I think that Magic is also a great game, and is kind of my first love, as it were, as far as card games are concerned. And yeah, too hard to actually choose. But if I had to choose a game to stream, it's Hearthstone. A game to play, it's probably Magic.
Okay, and from the mechanics that there is in Magic, because there's so many, I mean, it's so intense. Which one do you think would be a great fit into Hearthstone?
Kicker. So Kicker is a mechanic in Magic where when you play a card, you can pay an additional cost of some kind to allow it to have an additional effect. And I think that one of the things, and you've seen some things sort of like this in Hearthstone. You know, there were like the forbidden spells that allowed you to spend all of your mana to do a thing, right? But I think there's a lot more opportunity to do more like that. You see something like that with Mana Thirst now, right? It's like if you have this much mana, it lets you do an additional thing. I mean, frankly, there's like kind of an ongoing joke in Magic that like almost every mechanic in Magic is some variation of Kicker, where it's like, yeah, it's just, you know, you just pay more and it does this extra thing. And there's like all these different ways that you can do that, and that's kind of what we see in some fashion in a lot of mechanics in Hearthstone as well.
And I don't know if I'm mistaken, but in Magic, there was a period of time where you could like literally win a game without your opponent playing.
I mean, it's not necessarily a period of time. There's different formats in Magic, where you're allowed to play with some of the most powerful cards in the game's history that can allow for you to win the game in the first turn, yes.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and there's, I mean, the same thing's true in like, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh, for instance. There's like, you know, various things you can do to kill your opponent in the first turn in Yu-Gi-Oh. And that's one of the things that happens when you just make so many years worth of cards, right? I think it is possible to kill your opponent, like very unlikely, but possible to kill your opponent in the first turn in Wild in Hearthstone. I think I remember seeing something that like at least was a way that it could happen. But yeah, like as someone in the chat just said, you know, Black Lotus, it's not Life Tap. Life Tap's a different card. You're thinking of Channel. But yeah, you know, in the very first set of Magic, you could play a Black Lotus, play Channel, play a land, and fireball your opponent. Like Channel is a card that let you use your life total for mana, and Black Lotus is, you know, one of the most iconic cards in Magic history, the most valuable card in Magic history, one of the most rare, you know, the rarest. You can sacrifice it for 3 mana, so you could play your card that let you use your life for mana, and then another card that let you do as much damage as you had mana, basically, and just kill your opponent in the first turn. And you could do that in the very first set of Magic. It was incredibly unlikely, and you know, those cards were restricted or banned in various formats, but it's sort of, you know, always been possible, in particular in a world where people knew a lot less about how to make these sort of games.
Yeah. Talking about iconic cards, there's also iconic people playing Magic. I kind of heard that Post Malone was playing Magic. Did you
Yeah,
play with him? Did you play?
I have. Post Malone. The funny thing is, um, back this was last summer. I got a text from a friend of mine, Josh Lee Kwai, who is one of the hosts of the most popular Magic gameplay channel, which is Game Nights. They do Commander gameplay stuff, and they had apparently not that long before that, gotten a message from one of their patrons that was like, "Hey, I'm a really big fan, yada yada yada," and it was Post Malone. He's a huge Magic fan. He loves Magic, and he had been like following. He'd been a patron of their channel for a long time, and like reached out. He was like, "I'd love to come on your show." And I ended up meeting him originally at this game night that Josh and some other people had helped put together. That was like at this like mansion in the Hollywood Hills that Posty was renting. And it was like my first time ever playing Commander, that particular Magic format. And it was wild because like he's actually like kind of the most down to earth, humble dude in a lot of ways. He's like super happy to like talk to anyone and like take pictures with anyone. He'll like give his phone number out to like a dozen people in a night. He will then change his phone number because he must get way too many messages from people who he just happened to give his phone number out to. Like I've like had a couple times that I messaged him and he's like, "Oh, you did?" Like the last time I saw him, he was like, "Oh, you messaged me like back then?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, there it is," because it was on my old phone or whatever. But yeah, no, he's super cool, super chill, and a huge Magic fan.
Yeah. I mean, I was so surprised when I saw that. I was like, wow. I mean, it not that you need to look like or do anything differently to play that game, but it just like as a singer, it was just like I've seen him in multiple music festival, which is one thing that I think you like too, music festival.
Well, I don't know if you can. There's me playing a game with Posty
Yes.
and Cassius Marsh, who's NFL player or whatever, and that was at Posty's house, like back in I don't remember when that was, but yeah, no, he's a huge gamer. He loves it. I actually met like probably less surprising. I met the guy, the new actor for Spock at the Magic 30. He's a Magic fan. There he is. Ta-da! I'm
Ah,
trying to figure out
nice.
where I need to position this so
Yeah,
you can
yeah, no,
actually.
no, good, good,
There we
you're
go.
good.
Okay.
Is there
But
any
yeah, no, I mean, Magic's such a huge game, right? And it is the sort of thing that appeals to. There's a lot of elements of it, that appeal to a lot of different people. And I think that one of the things that appeals to it to, people like Cassius or Posty is like they like to have like their shiny stuff, right? Like they like to have like Posty has like a like incredibly rare like Magic card that I heard he paid like $750,000 for, right? And like they love like to have like all the like blinged out decks and things like that. But yeah, he also, like I said, they're also just like huge fans of the game too. So a lot of people who you wouldn't necessarily expect.
anyone else that you've met that you were like kind of like, oh, I didn't expect he would play or she would play Magic.
Um, those are the ones who most jumped to my. There's like Hunter Pence is like a baseball player who's a huge Magic fan too. Um, I met him at Magic 30 as well. He was definitely also super friendly and chill.
Nice, nice. So yeah, music festival.
Mhm.
This summer, you've seemed to have gone to lots of different shows with Olivia. We've seen some couple
Yeah,
of
so it's funny
pictures.
because like I am a huge electronic music fan. There's a big electronic music festival called Electric Daisy Carnival that these days happens in Las Vegas. It used to happen in LA, and I've gone I think 14 years now. So we went to that in May, And Olivia is a huge Dave Matthews Band fan, and she's been going to their shows, and in particular their show at the Gorge in Washington State for like 20 years. So we went to both of those, and also went to a couple of other shows, here in LA, the Dave Matthews show at the Hollywood Bowl. So yeah, that's those were all a lot of fun. It's funny too because there's a lot of like I didn't actually see I did see some. There's a number of other people in the like streaming esports scene who go to EDC. I ended up giving an extra ticket to like someone who I know from like Cloud9 who was like really looking for a ticket, couldn't find one, and like I literally like last minute was like going into the festival, and like he was like, okay, I'm like in a cab, almost there, and I'm just like waiting, and like in the like Uber line, finally like find him, like, here you go, here's the wristband, you can get in, because that can be absolute chaos, especially because there's so many people who go to EDC that the cell phone towers can't handle it. So like cell phone reception inside the festival, once like it reaches a certain point, is just basically nothing. So that can be a little hard to manage when you're trying to find people. There's usually like, we have a meetup spot here and here at this time, and good luck.
Yeah, in
It's part of
Montreal.
why you see those like big totem things people carry around.
Yeah, which is very smart.
A buddy of mine has he's a programmer. He's worked for like a bunch of different major companies, and he has this big LED programmable sign that you can like use like your phone, can at least use Bluetooth even if the cell towers don't work, to send messages to, that will display on the sign. And you like I was actually just watching a stream on the Anjuna channel. Anjuna Beats is a music label that I'm a huge fan of. And I was watching a stream, and I was like, wait a minute, there's just like, because a lot of the things will be like stills of shows, and I'm just like, there's a Feeks totem just in the corner of this still. I know exactly what show this is, and I know exactly where he is because there's his totem.
Yeah, well, in Montreal we have a big music festival which called Oshiaga, and the problem is, it's same thing. Like there are too many cell phone, no reception, but you're not allowed to bring like a totem. So people use noodles and they wrap around them and they say it's like a belt, and then they put it up when they're in, so it blew up.
Yeah. Well, there's like oftentimes there'll be like rules like oh, it can't be above, for like a lot of music festivals, can't be above a certain height. So people will have them that are like shorter, but then we'll have like the ability to like telescope, right? They're like just multiple like things contained inside, and just telescope it up and be way outside of the actual regulations they have for those sort of things for the show.
Yeah, no, for sure. You need to be a little creative.
Yeah. Listen, you don't want to get lost. You want your friends to be able to find you. So
Yes, no, definitely. Okay, so now we're gonna get into the viewers' questions. So we got a couple of viewers' questions. And one of them was asking about, do you have any anecdotes? Have you ever been stalked by someone in the community?
been stalked.
Yeah.
So there was one time. There was one time when I lived in Oceanside, which is like a North San Diego suburb. That it was like a random Wednesday night, and there's just like a knock at my door. And keep in mind, I live in like a like condo complex, right? And it's like like gate code and everything. And there's a knock at my door, and I go and answer it, and there's just someone who's just like, "We did it." It's like like three guys and a girl. They're like, "We did it." I'm like, "What?" They're like, "We found you." I'm like, "Huh?" And it turns out that it was like these three people, like we went and like looked up information, found like their Instagram later, whatever. This like Russian travel show host, I guess, who was like a big fan, who had like been in LA for a shoot and took the train down, somehow found out not only like the building I lived in, somehow got in, and then apparently knocked on a bunch of different doors trying to find which door was mine. And fortunately, like, they just kind of wanted a picture and then left. But like, that was a little disconcerting, right? Like, because it's like, oh, this person just found where I lived, And if they had other more nefarious intentions, that would be a little unsettling.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, especially at three people.
Yeah, it was like it was a group of four people, and I was just like,
Yeah,
So I,
what?
I I do try to be like pretty careful about like not revealing information about where I live for things, and yeah, it's don't if you're out there, don't do that. That makes people very uncomfortable, and like I'm also like a big guy, right? And it's a lot more uncomfortable, as I'm sure you can attest for someone who is not.
Okay, so there was actually that's a question directly from Twitter. Al Kelly, you wanted to know your secret for your shampoo. What do you use to wash your hair?
Funny thing is, I only wash my hair once a week.
Okay.
Like once my hair got like really long, I was just like, well, I'm not gonna like wash it and dry it. Like it's just like such a hassle. So I like literally like wash my hair once a week. I washed it this morning. But yeah, I use a tea tree shampoo and conditioner, and that's basically it. Like, I just think it's really good genetics, right? Like, Olivia complains that like I basically don't even have split ends despite having not gotten a haircut for 3 years. So I don't really know that there's much like that you can like attest that to, or ascribe that to outside of just like I'm very fortunate in winning the genetic lottery when it comes to hair.
Good. So guys, the answer is genetic, so go get that.
So I mean, I do think it is important that you don't wash your hair too much because that is one of the ways that you can damage your hair. So
So regular shampoo and
please do
conditioner.
wash your hair because if you don't, it gets gross.
So it's a fine balance.
Yeah, exactly. Which has basically become once a week.
Okay. So
Wash
good.
your hair with genetics, precisely, precisely.
Good. And no berries or special
No,
fruits,
no. I mean, I do
clay.
condition it too, you know, but there's no like crazy like botanical treatment or whatever.
I just imagine you making like the potion and putting it on your hair.
Like hair mask.
Uh, what?
Yeah, bathing in the blood of your enemies also helps. That's more of a skincare thing than a hair, though.
Um, what was the last good show that you watched?
Last good show that I watched, not Willow. Willow's very bad. Hmm. I liked Wednesday. I thought Wednesday was pretty entertaining. It wasn't like amazing, but I enjoyed it.
They re-signed, so there's gonna be a second
Yeah,
season.
there's gonna be a season two. I think that was the last thing that I watched. That like, I think Olivia and I watched the entire show in 2 nights because I just kept wanting to watch the next episode. Uh,
And the next, the last good movie you watch.
Last good movie I watched. I haven't actually seen many movies recently. I will say not Thor. The most recent Thor was very disappointing. I'm trying to even think of like things that I have seen in theaters. I think the last couple things I saw in theaters were Thor and Multiverse of Madness, both of which were not great. I literally can't think of another movie that I've seen recently. What have we watched, Oko? Oko says dog TV. He watches a lot of that.
Oh yeah, he
I did.
does.
Yeah, we like anytime we leave, we turn on dog TV for the dogs if they're not coming with us. So they don't just like freak out at any sound they hear because there's like the chirping of birds or running water or whatever. I actually have been meaning to see Everything Everywhere at Once. That is a movie that I have unfortunately not caught yet. But I do want to see that. And I have not seen Top Gun. I have heard good things about that too.
And do you exfoliate or moisturize your skin?
I moisturize every day. I have a moisturizer that has sunscreen in it. It's like SPF 15 or something. So that's one of the very important things. If you want to make sure that you're protecting your skin from the sun. It was really funny. I think it was 2 years ago ish. When I was in, it was actually around when Olivia and I met. So guess what? Like a year and a half ago, was when I was in Vegas for my birthday, um, and this I was like playing blackjack, and this guy, was talking about something and mentioned that he was like 21, and I'm like, oh, I'm 41, and he's like, what? He's like, I don't believe you're in your 40s. I'm like, I show him my ID, and he's just like, everyone who I know who's in their 40s looks like they're a war veteran, and I'm like, well, if you take care of yourself, you can avoid that, right? The incredible stress of playing video games for a living, unfortunately, not taking its toll on me.
That's good. That's good. Um, one of the last questions. People want to know, how did you seduce Olivia?
How did I seduce Olivia? Clearly with that tuna. No, so the funny thing is that like that wasn't, a lot of people responded to that tweet, right? They're like, oh, she like slid into your DMs or whatever. It was like, no, she just really was just like, that looks like good tuna. I want that tuna. I'm hungry. And like, she didn't even like follow me on Twitter for a while after that, when we just sort of like had, whatever sort of mutual exchanges. And I wasn't even following her then. It was actually when I was going to Vegas for what I called the 1-year anniversary of my 40th birthday, because I had like grand plans to do all this stuff for my 40th birthday, but that was in 2020, so none of them happened. And she happened to be in Vegas at the same time that I was going there just to, go celebrate my birthday. She was there for a Flesh and Blood, which is another card game. She was doing cosplay for their event there. And I messaged a group of people, including her, and I was just like, hey, maybe we can get together and like, grab a couple drinks, maybe play some Magic, play some Commander. And we ended up like going out to dinner, like this big group of us went out to dinner one night. And then, I was like, hey, we're going to go out to this club for my birthday. Do you all want to come? And, this group of them came with us, and Olivia and I just really hit it off, so.
Okay, but did you tell her anything? Any good line we need to know?
Oh, not at all. So the funny thing is, like, it wasn't until like after the weekend when, we'd hung out and such, that she like, looked me up on like Wikipedia or whatever, and was like, oh, she's like, all I knew about you was that you like played Hearthstone, used to play Magic professionally, did commentary for stuff, and then like, looked it up and was like, who is this person, looking at old pictures of me? It's like, I don't recognize this person. What's going on?
So you talked after that weekend. Nothing happened during the weekend.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we hung out that weekend. It was not, but it was a good time. A gentleman does not kiss and tell.
Okay. That's good enough. So she was seduced.
I don't know who seduced who, really. When you really when you really break it down, it's not clear.
Okay, it's unclear. Okay, who seduced who?
Who can say, really?
Okay, good. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. We really appreciate this. This is just like a fun time to learn a little bit more about you, up and personal, more than anything else. Oh, I forgot to add, do you have any allergies?
Do I have any allergies? I am allergic to augmentin. I'm actually allergic to dogs. Would you believe it?
You're allergic to dogs?
Allergic to dogs. Yep. And here I am.
It does look like you're allergic to dog right now.
I have like various just grass, pollen, whatever type of allergies. But I went to an allergist because I was just really congested all the time. And he was like, "Oh, do you have a dog at home?" And I'm like, "Yes." He's like, "Is it possible that you could not have the dog sleep in the same room as you?" I'm like, "Absolutely not." So this is just going to be something I'm going to have to deal with. So fortunately, it's not like a major allergy, as you can clearly tell. But yeah, I will deal with chronic congestion to have these little guys in my life. So.
Okay, good. So it's good that I asked now that we know you're allergic to dogs. And augmentin?
Yes, which is like a derivative of penicillin.
Ah, okay. Okay.
It just jumps to mind because I literally have to say it every time I go to the doctor's office. So.
Okay. Well, now we know.
Now you know. Yeah. Please don't have someone stalk me to my apartment and like poison me with penicillin.
Well, if you have a strange food,
Fortunately, I don't have like a like an anaphylactic shock reaction. I just get hives. But
yeah, let's not test it. Thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. I really had some fun. I hope you did too. And I will see you around.
absolutely, thanks for having me. Say
Have
bye,
a-
Oko.
Bye, Yoko. Bye, guys.